Regardless of what happens tonight, the Red Sox offseason begins tomorrow. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and thank you very much for clicking on this video. We've got a Game 7, ladies and gentlemen, which is awesome if you're just a casual baseball fan like myself, right? It's always cool to see the end of the 2025 season come down to this do-or-die type game, but for baseball in general, this means, regardless of what happens tonight, tomorrow begins the MLB offseason. I thought it'd be a pretty good idea to create a video talking about what you should expect the first moves from the Red Sox to be, talk about when they can do certain things and what to expect over the course of the first couple of days of the offseason, because technically, right after the last pitch of the World Series, the day after specifically, both the trade and the free agent market open up. Now, this means both nothing is going to happen right after the World Series and a lot of things are going to happen after the World Series. Specifically on the trade market, there's not really any sort of like regulation to it. It's basically, hey man, the last pitch of the World Series was yesterday. Let's start calling teams about moving guys, right? And it's sort of this floodgates open. Now, the problem with that analogy is that there's not really any water that comes spilling out of it, right? In other sports, it's like, okay, free agency trade period is here, and it's like bam, 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 bam. With baseball, obviously, especially recently, it's been more of a waiting game, right? A lot of teams who have players that they're looking to move tend to wait out markets a little bit, right? If there's big free agents who are in similar positions to the guys they're trying to move out, they're going to wait until that guy signs and hopefully, catch a team that's desperate enough to make a big move. They like pitting teams against each other, so there probably isn't going to be like, okay, trades are open up, and then 10 minutes later, boom, headline deal done. Now, specifically for the Red Sox, this is the area that I expect the most sort of rumors or reports to come from. I think the Red Sox are going to be incredibly all over the trade market this offseason, mostly because it would help them solve quite a few things, right? The outfield, I think, is something the Red Sox need to figure out. They've got this sort of logjam of position players out there. They've got logjam of position players in the pipeline a bit, and they have a little bit of a logjam when it comes to pitching prospects as well, even though they built up such a great amount of those. So I think it's clear that the Red Sox have to and will be a bit aggressive on the trade market. I think we're going to see a lot of moves made there. But we also got to talk about free agency a little bit, because this is where the offseason, particularly the beginning of the offseason, gets incredibly complicated. But before we talk about that, there's something else we need to talk about, because, ladies and gentlemen, it's November. What does November mean to everybody? Well, not only does it mean baseball offseason begins, and we're about to get pretty crazy on this channel, but it also means the start of Movember. If you guys are new here, every year on this channel, we dedicate this month to Movember. It's a campaign and a fundraiser dedicated to bringing men's mental and physical health services to men all across the globe. Now, right here on this channel, I will not only be growing a mustache for the entirety of November, but we also have a fundraising goal on this channel as a community. Our goal last year was $1,500, and we absolutely crushed that. This year, we're going to try and double that. We're going to try and raise $3,000 for the Movember campaign. If you want to help donate, the link is in the description of this video, but for a little bit extra incentive for all of you guys, if we hit the $3,000 mark raised for this Movember campaign, we are going to be giving away opening day Red Sox tickets right here on this channel. 2 opening day Red Sox tickets will be given out if we're able to reach our fundraiser goal. This is an incredible opportunity to donate to a really great cause, and it's just a ton of fun this month. So if you guys want to help out, again, the link is in the description. Okay, back to this video here. Like the trade market, the free agent market also technically opens up the day after the last pitch of the World Series is thrown. However, unlike the trade market, things are a little bit more complicated than just, okay, have at it, ladies and gentlemen, right? Because free agency, once this gate opens up, there's technically another gate that these free agents have to get through, because with free agency, there's a 5-day sort of grace period here where, yes, technically these guys are free agents. Yes, technically they are free to sign with whoever, but during this 5-day period, they can't sign with another team. It gives the teams that have these free agents exclusive access to negotiate a contract with these guys. Now, again, like trades, there's not really a ton of movement during this time period, right? You don't see a lot of guys signing contracts here, mostly because gotten this close to free agency already. What's another 5 days to be able to explore all your options? Once in a while, we'll see a guy who really just doesn't want to leave this city or this team or whatever, sign a team-friendly deal during this this time period, but for the most part, especially bigger free agents, they end up waiting out this 5-day period. However, for the Red Sox, there's a whole lot that they could do during this time period that Major League Baseball actually requires them to do, because you also got to figure out all the option situations, right? During this time period, teams and players either have to opt in or opt out to these deals, either a club option or a player option. Now, for the Red Sox, this gets really complicated really quickly because they have some really interesting decisions that they need to make or they need to react to. The first one, obviously, and I think the biggest one that Red Sox fans have talked about so far this offseason is obviously Alex Bregman, right? We know that officially, Alex Bregman is going to be opting out of his deal with the Boston Red Sox and hitting free agency. So that one's sort of not really a, ooh, wait and see what he does. That's sort of a, okay, now that he's a free agent, what does it mean? This 5-day grace period could actually be pretty important to the Red Sox in the Alex Bregman pursuit, because it could potentially give them a bit of a baseline as to what Alex Bregman and Scott Boras are looking for in his next deal. But outside of Bregman, the other sort of bigger one that I think a lot of people are talking about is obviously Trevor Story, right? Story has an opt-out going into this year. He has to figure this out between the day the World Series stops and the 5th day after that. Now, right now, the prevailing theory is that Story is planning on opting into this, right? He feels this sense of loyalty to the Boston Red Sox because of how they kind of put up with him when he was injured over these past couple of years. He feels like he owes it to this team to be able to play healthily for a majority of his contract. It sounds like he might opt in, but you take a look at the shortstop market and it's not exactly incredibly deep, right? If Story were to opt out, he'd be what? Probably the second most coveted shortstop available on the market. He could land himself an even longer deal. However, if he does end up opting out, things get even more complicated for this Red Sox team. I know it's hard to do here, but technically, according to Trevor Story's contract, well, he does have the option of opting out. The Red Sox can also negate that. In his contract, if he opts out, the Red Sox can actually opt back in to his deal, and it gives him an extra year with this team. So technically, the Red Sox could say, hey, buddy, you wanted to test free agency? Tough luck. Welcome back to the Boston Red Sox, right? And I don't know that the Red Sox do this, right? They technically have the option here of saying, nope, we want you to go to free agency, test the market, then come back, maybe on a smaller deal. It all kind of depends on whether or not Trevor Story is going to opt into this deal. So that is a pretty big storyline I think a lot of people are going to want to follow over these next few days. Then obviously you have Lucas Giolito, who's on a mutual option with the Boston Red Sox. 99.9999 whatever percent of the time here doesn't get picked up, right? If a player has a good year and the team opts in, most of the time the player opts out. If the player has a bad year and the player opts in, most of the time the team opts out, right? It's just sort of a, cherry on top of a contract. The overwhelming theory is that Lucas Giolito will end up being a free agent, but again, crazier things have happened, so we'll have to wait and see on that one as well. And kind of quietly here, one name that we really haven't had much of a discussion about this offseason is that the Red Sox do have an option, a club option for Jarren Duran. Now, it's an $8 million club option for just one season, right? It prevents them from having to go to arbitration with Duran. It feels like on the surface it's a no-brainer that the Red Sox pick this up, regardless of whether or not you think he's going to be here in 2026, right? $8 million is a pretty fair price for Jarren Duran's services. If they want to trade him, I don't think that $8 million is going to stand in the way of the Red Sox being able to move this guy. But there is an off chance here, and I think a real reality in which the Red Sox sit there and they say Duran was good this year, he was fine this year, but he wasn't the superstar player that we saw in 2024. We could probably pick him up for a little bit less, maybe say $7.1 or $7.2 million, and maybe save themselves some money by opting out of this deal. I don't know if the optics of that would be really fantastic. I don't know what that would do to the Jarren Duran relations with the Red Sox, right? Would that sever things a bit? Would that force them to make a trade? I don't know. But regardless, that is a bit of an interesting conversation the Red Sox need to have. The other thing the Red Sox need to figure out, and really every team in Major League Baseball needs to figure out, is who they're giving qualifying offers to. This year, the qualifying offer is set at $22 million. In this 5-day period, teams need to figure out if they are giving a qualifying offer to a player or they're not giving a qualifying offer for a player. Specifically for the Boston Red Sox, there's only one player that actually qualifies for a qualifying offer. I know I used the word qualified twice there. Don't yell at me, but that's Lucas Giolito. Now, this is a really interesting conversation amongst Red Sox Nation because because we don't really know which way the Red Sox are leaning right now. We do know that, according to Chris Cotillo, there is more interest in retaining Giolito than there was for Nick Pivetta last year. We know that the Red Sox gave Nick Pivetta the qualifying offer, and we also know that it worked out really well for this Red Sox team. Now, personally, I think the only way the Red Sox actually give Lucas Giolito the qualifying offer heading into next season is if they don't expect him to take it. I think the Red Sox want to make meaningful upgrades to the roster this offseason, but that requires money. And historically, the Red Sox, they aren't really willing to spend a ton of it. With the impacts of Crochet and Roman Anthony's new contracts, the Red Sox, to make meaningful upgrades, are most likely going to have to get up to or surpass the second luxury tax threshold, which will be the first time that they've done that basically since the 2019 season, or really, I think even it was the 2018 season, right? It was one of those 2 years was the last time they went above that luxury tax threshold. Committing $22 million, which is the value of the qualifying offer this year, and expecting him to take it could hamstring them a bit, right? It could put them in a position where they have to get incredibly creative in who they bring into this roster to improve it, and that could end up sort of preventing them from making the moves that they actually want to do. Doesn't mean that they can't bring him back, doesn't mean that they won't bring him back. To me, it just means that this is the only scenario in which they should give him this qualifying offer, right? If he's planning on not taking it, it almost guarantees the Red Sox, unless they bring him back on a smaller deal, maybe they give him $10-15 million a year for the next 3 or 4 years or whatever, something in return, right? You either get Lucas Giolito back or you get a compensation pick. So to me, it's a really interesting conversation, but we're going to figure that out pretty quickly here over these coming days. After that, the Wild West kind of opens up, right? Lucas Giolito, if he's given the qualifying offer, has until November 18th to either accept or decline it. You've got a couple of other sort of smaller-ish items in terms of deadlines here. You've got arbitration at some point in January. You've got the non-tender deadline, which is at the end of November. That one could be an interesting conversation for Red Sox fans. Then you've got things like the Rule 5 draft. But after these next 5 days, things open up and everyone starts to go everywhere. The rumors start to fly. The reports start to fly, right? We're going to have a ton of fun covering it all on this channel. But overall, in terms of the first moves the Red Sox are going to make, I think the focus right now has to be internal, right? It has to be on the guys that are on this roster that are either going to be free agents or could potentially be on the trade market, things like that. And that's where the focus is going to lie, because I expect the first moves the Red Sox to make to be something within their organization, whether bringing somebody back or letting somebody go. However, that's not going to stop me from saying that I think this is going to be one of the more interesting off seasons we've seen in a very long time. I think the Red Sox are ready to be aggressive, more aggressive than they've been in previous years. I think Craig Breslow has been giving a little bit of a green light, right? Maybe a yellowish light for this offseason. I don't expect them to spend the most this offseason, but I do expect them to start spending like one of the bigger teams that they are, and I think you guys should too, right? Hold them to this standard. They won almost 90 games last offseason. They should be pushing for more, and if they aren't, then it is a total failure by this front office and a total failure by this ownership, but that's the standard we should hold these guys to. So I'm excited for this offseason. I'm excited to cover it, and I want your guys' opinion. What do you think are going to be the first moves for the Red Sox? And let me know how you think this offseason is going to go. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. It just simply helps out a ton, and it's the best way to let me know you're enjoying the content. Don't forget, Movember donation link is in the description of this video. Be sure to donate to an absolutely fantastic cause. Thank you very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.